Welcome to another episode of IHNA and IHM Career Australia. I'm Vinesh Balan. We have been on a journey on trying to decode what's happening around the world. What can people do? What should people try to do at this crazy times that we are in? And today, to help us along on this discovery, we have Vinay Nair with us, who is a mental health and well-being consultant. Welcome to the show, Vinay.
Thanks, Vinesh. I'm very pleased to be here, and hi to all the viewers.
Yeah, thanks for being a part of this. So you can probably introduce what you do on the mental health space, so that we get a better idea of how we can how we can evolve this conversation.
Yeah, sure. As you all know, I'm a proud Malayali by birth. I came out to Australia, about 17 years ago. I came out as a software consultant. Then, through my own life journey, I decided to transition into working in mental health. And I've worked in a lot of different sectors in mental health, in working directly with people who might have mental health issues, coaching people, also in training and development. And I find myself currently working with a lot of businesses across Australia in making their workplaces more mentally healthy, because we all know that we spend close to one third of our time in working roles, and then we spend a lot more time on the weekends going thinking about work, in the evening times in the commute, thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow. So a lot of our time is spent about work, and that can cause a lot of stressors in our personal well-being and our lifestyles. And that's where I'm working with organizations at the moment to help them understand and be more aware of some of the challenges that employees might face. And this fits in quite well into what I do. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely, that's a beautiful journey. I mean, coming as a software developer and getting into this path, that's not a common journey, but that was a very interesting one. Thanks for sharing that. So, how have you been? How have you been coping during these tough times, Vinay?
Look, just like everyone else, I've had to acknowledge that I'm human. So I've been through the same challenges that people are facing. The significant difference being that I don't have children that I have to homeschool, or children who have to look at their homework for. And for me, it's just me and my partner, and it's been a roller coaster ride. Before before the shutdown happened, I was traveling quite a bit every day, talking to different businesses, and that's come to a close. And now I'm having to communicate with people through this virtual medium that creates its own set of challenges in terms of reachability, in terms of being able to read your audience, and so on and so forth. So it's been a what I like to call it as a roller coaster ride. Some people like going on the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Other people avoid going to theme parks, because they're fearful of it. For me, I don't mind it. I can tolerate them. I'm the kind of guy who will go into a theme park and maybe buy some French fries and maybe go on one ride which looks safe, but maybe not on everything. I don't know about you.
Absolutely. You sound exactly like me. I won't even go on that one, right? I'll just eat the fries and sit in a corner. That's what I'll do. But you never know what happens when kids come into the picture. You have to go with them. So that'll be a whole different ball game. But let's not get into that. So what do you think? How are people feeling right now? What's the general mood like?
Look, it is it's quite somber. It's quite uncertain. First of all, I just want to as I was preparing for this discussion yesterday, I was thinking we as Malayalis, a lot of us love getting into the community space. A lot of us work as nurses, doctors. So I just want to acknowledge all the good work that they're doing out there, and the impact that's having on their extended families. My uncle, my aunt, they're currently working in Muscat at the moment. Very typical, as doctors, and they're every morning they're fearful. When they go into work, they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know who they're going to come in contact with, and that creates a certain sense of insecurity and uncertainty that we as human beings are not used to. We love certainty in our lives, and that unknown anticipation is causing, you know I guess, intense amounts of anxiety. People are spending a lot of time thinking about the past, thinking about the future. They're fearful. It's what this situation with the entire COVID crisis is what we call a situational stressor. It's where the risk factors are relating to unemployment. It is relating to being isolated and having the complexity of having to juggle between home and work while sitting in the same environment. There's no room to create boundaries for people where they can say, I've dropped my child off at school. Now from 9 to 5, I can focus on my work and then I can come back and then I can think about home life. That doesn't exist for a lot of people. A lot of people I'm talking to are mentioning that they feel like they've had their baby all over again. The day is turning into night, night is turning into day. They don't understand, they can't seem to comprehend the difference between a weekday and a weekend because they all seem to be the same. So it's there's these are some of the challenges that people are facing, and all of these stressors, if not managed, can cause mental health issues, and in some cases, significant mental health issues, and that's what I'm concerned about at the moment.
What sort of mental health issues, Vinay? I mean, can you probably go deep into one of those issues that you've seen recently?
Yeah. So, when we look at depression and anxiety across the board, especially in Australia at least, there is close to 45% of the Australian population who will experience a mental health issue once in their lifetime. 1 in 5 Australians will experience a mental health issue once every year. Now, these stats are coming through from before COVID. Now, due to COVID, we will notice a significant increase, a steep rise in some of these issues because of the prevalence of anxiety and depression. Depression, simply put, is us thinking about the regret about our past. And anxiety is just worry about the future. Now, this pandemic is providing that opportunity with a perfect storm, which is where we can combine the both and creating time to think about the past and the uncertainty of the future, not knowing what's going to happen next, and both of that put together, we're starting to see an increase in anxiety, people using medication and other substances to manage their anxiety and the depression they're experiencing. What I'd like to put it as three simple things. We experience a sense of anxiety, and this is for everyone across the board. We also experience a sense of loneliness. Okay, loneliness because we are away from family. We are also, missing milestones. My sister-in-law, for example, was meant to travel to India to, introduce her newly born son to the rest of the family. Now there's a question mark on that now.
Yeah.
We don't know when that's going to happen. So, unfortunately, there are a lot of us, who might be missing our loved ones, who might not be there for our families back home. In India, we are isolated, and in some cases, unfortunately, I've heard my mother's, one of her best friend had to go to the funeral of her father through Facebook video, which is a really traumatic situation, and this is unheard of. We've never had situations like this where people have been forced to adjust in this way, and that can make us feel insecure. And the reality is, unless we have a vaccine, unless we know who is immune, who is not, that can take some time of spending time in the laboratory. We don't there's no real opportunity for us to feel secure, even if the restrictions are eased and so on and so forth. So this sense of insecurity and anxiety is going to last with us for a little time. I don't know about you, Vinesh, but the other day I went to the shops 2 days ago, and I came back, and I think I sneezed twice in the evening. And that night I
I was
was worrying,
actually
going,
sneezing a
is this,
couple of times before
did
the
I,
shoot,
did,
and I was like, is something going wrong? That fear of you don't know what it is. It's crazy. Yeah.
yeah. So it's real. I mean, even though I've been breathing and talking about this for 10 years, for me, as soon as I had a sneeze, the primal instinct that I have as a human being came up. Am I going to be safe? Am I going to give this, give whatever I have to my wife, because I came home with it. So that sense of fear will continue to play a part in our lives. And what we need to do is think about how we manage that. And along with anxiety, another big issue that across the world people will be facing is a sense of loneliness because of lack of travel, because of missing milestones, and that boredom can make us, you know, I guess, move towards unhelpful coping ways of dealing with it. Alcohol. right?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but a lot of Malayalis, and especially in all the movies, we see a lot of dependence on alcohol and tobacco, and that overexerted dependence can be can be troublesome for us.
Yeah.
The other thing that, in general terms, that I'm seeing is a sense of burnout. There are a lot of us who are trying to juggle work and home life alongside each other. And along with that, I also want to acknowledge all of those who are, caring for their parents who might be living at home, who might be caring for a young child, or maybe one of their children have, additional needs that they're caring for. So this particular situation where you're when you where you're living in a small contained space, all of these other requirements can and also having to check your email and respond to your boss at the same time. If workplaces are not flexible, if they're not supportive, or if we don't reach out and tell our workplaces, I need support, I need to be more flexible, because 9 to 5 may not be the best opportunity for me to do my work. I'm seeing a lot of parents, signing on at night time after their kids have gone to bed, so that they can do their work more effectively. They're finding that that peace and quiet is helpful for them. And if we are not given that opportunity, we are to take time off, or to be flexible, or to switch off from work, that can create a sense of burnout, and that can be quite detrimental, because we don't really know how it feels. It is fatigue. It is us feeling demotivated, and that can be quite can have a quite significant impact in our lives, on our relationships, because we don't really label it as anxiety or depression, but it's this really low sense of, like something is weighing down on us.
Yeah, it's so good to hear. It's like an acknowledgement through what we are going through and through what everyone is going through. Just like you said, we don't acknowledge it as anxiety or depression. We just go with the flow. Hey, it'll be fine. That. So listening that this is a real thing and this can really affect people. That's a profound thought from you, Vinay. Thanks for sharing that. Now let's get into the next part of it. So what can people actually do during these crazy times?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a good question, because and this will change from week to week based on what people are going through in their lives. The most important thing that we can do at the moment is to try to think about how we can bring a sense of security and awareness to where we are at the moment, right? We need to stay present in what is going on, because for some people this is going to be a day-to-day struggle. For others, it's going to be a weekly struggle, and for some people it's going to be monthly struggle. They might know how they can structure their lives over certain days. So some form of physical exercise and movement is crucial during this time, and also keeping an eye on your sleep. Sleep has got strong correlation to the sense of loneliness that people feel. That, if you don't get enough sleep, it releases this stress hormone called cortisol into your blood, which then suppresses our immune functionality, which means that, if you don't get enough sleep, you might find yourself being less immune. That means you might be quite, susceptible to catching the common cold. Especially in Australia, we are going into the flu season right now, and in other parts of the world, whatever might be relevant. So 6 to 7 hours of sleep every single day, or even breaking it up, trying to find ways to, make sure your sleep hygiene is well looked after, is crucial, especially during this time. And when it comes to, exercise, it's also important to think about, what suits your need. It might be going for a walk, it might be doing some gardening, it might be doing some light movement like stretching or yoga. We don't need to try and confine to the societal ways of how we tend to do exercise. For me, vacuuming the house might be exercise, right? For me, doing stretching while I'm watching a TV show could be, is a way for me to look after my own body throughout the day, because we've become so sedentary. We are sitting in one spot in our homes, in front of a computer. Who knows whether we're being ergonomic or not? That also can be a concern, right? Um, I, in reality speaking, I used to travel 1.5 hours to go to work every day. 1.5 hours in the morning, 1.5 hours in the evening. Now I've got 3 hours where I'm not moving, I'm waking up at 8:59, and at 9 o'clock I'm in front of a computer checking my email. So your our bodies can feel that over a long period of time. So it's important to stay fit and try to give our body a sense of some kind of vitality and get the blood flowing, because that can keep our immune system much more stronger over a period of time. And also, I'm noticing that a lot of our you know a lot of our elderly population, my amuma, my papa, they're all on getting on social media, right? My mama is now using WhatsApp video. She's 80. She's using WhatsApp video to see her great grandchildren now, who are based in Melbourne. So that is, it's giving us the opportunity to connect with people the way that we wouldn't have done before. And we could do. I'm doing online trivia, so I'm learning more about general knowledge, which I didn't get to when I was in school. People can also think about different things to keep their brain active. It could be Sudoku. It could be a puzzle. It could be, a hobby that they used to have as a child, but it went by the wayside because they grew up, and then their studies took prominence. Now is a great time to get back into it, especially with a loved one, with a family member, or with their son or daughter, whoever it might be, or even with their with a friend who might be overseas, and they might get online and they might jam together. So it's important to use digital communication to try different things. House Party is a great app that's coming on board. And the other thing that I'm doing right now is getting on TikTok and trying to copy some of those dance moves. That we Indians, a lot of us have two left feet, especially me, and I'm trying to use that as a way. It's giving my wife a good sense of fun, because she's watching me and she's able to laugh her heart out watching me making a fool of myself. But sometimes we have to take on those responsibilities, and it's important to balance our active tasks with the passive tasks, right? We might be spending time on Amazon Prime. We might be spending time on Netflix. So if you're sitting and watching a show, we are binge watching certain shows. Think about, maybe you might get on the floor, put a mat in front of you, or get on the carpet and stretch yourself while you're watching that show. So think about how you can incorporate some things that maybe you might want to do knitting. Now there might be notions in people's mind going, I don't do knitting. I'm a lot more, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, Vinesh. I'll leave that up to you. But that's where we have to start challenging our own biases, because what we're going through is something that we never expected to see last year or the year before. So what we expected to do now is also something that we never expected or wanted to do in the past. So we have to push ourselves outside that comfort zone, for ourselves, for our relationships, and also for our for our children who might be using us as role models, especially during this time, to see how they can interact, and how they can make sense of what is going on.
Beautifully said. Yeah.
Yeah, go on. Do you have something to say?
No, go ahead.
So the other thing that I like to think about is family dinners. Us being together as a family, connecting with each other, even if it is online, right? Have someone else has made a meal by themselves, and you having a meal by yourselves, and you might just connect on a video call and talk about it. We know that food plays a very important part in our culture, right?
Absolutely.
Food brings us together. We are missing those opportunities where we would have gathered. We would have maybe we missed Vishu, right? That was a significant opportunity for a lot of us in our communities to interact and gather. But we need to continue to keep that camaraderie in place, because those things help us connect with each other on a very personal level, rather than just checking in and going, how are you doing? We have to look for more non-verbal cues. If someone you're used to reaching out to every single day is not being connected with you for 2 or 3 days, that's a time for you to ask that question, because that could be a warning sign that that person might be feeling deflated. They might be feeling low. They might have some thoughts going through their head about about the future. They might be fearful about their job, about their children. They might be having conflicts at home. So so we need to be looking out for each other, and we need to make sure this is not the time for us to think, I'm going to look after myself, someone else can look after themselves. We need to come together, and we need to get over our shyness to reach out to people. And at least during this time, we need to be knocking on each other's door, saying, what's going on? How are things for you? And not just waiting for someone to reach out to us.
Absolutely, that's golden advice. I know I was so engrossed in listening what you're saying that I didn't even keep track of time. I think our time is almost up. I'd like to add a funny note to that. Don't go and knock doors. Probably knock their phones. That's the right thing to do right now. So
That's it.
this looks like it won't change or it won't fall back anytime soon. Even though we might get back into our ways, it won't be like it used to be. It'll be a new normal. It'll be a different world out there. People might be paranoid about touching each other, traveling in public transport, and all those things. So, what does our future look like, or what is the best thing that we can do so that we are prepared for the future, Vinay?
So, like you said, Vinesh, it is going to be a new normal out there, and as far as I can see, there's going to be unfortunately a second wave of this, which is going to have more economic impact and more personal impact on us. That is going to come through from this. So we might feel like we are trying to go back to some kind of normalcy, but it is when the world goes back to normal, it's when the people who are struggling, or there might be people who are finding it difficult to go back to the new normal. They might be struggling with their routines, they might be struggling with going back to work, they might be happy with their own flexible arrangements. So that can create a lot of tension for people, which increases the risk for suicide, which also increases the risk for people isolating themselves, because people are seeing the rest of the world going back to normalcy, and they're like, if they don't feel like they're going at the same pace, that can create a sense of I'm not good enough, and that can cause relationship conflicts. We have already seen domestic violence increase, so we need to be watching out for each other. Just because things are going back to normal doesn't mean that everyone's going to come out of their house and everyone's going to go do things the way they're doing. We need to make sure that there is a sense of you know connection with people's health. If we are feeling emotionally weak during this time, and if you've never reached out to get support or therapy, it is a good time to give it a shot. Okay, going and seeing a counselor is like going and seeing a hairdresser. Not everyone is going to fit your needs. You have to sometimes try different things, and a counselor is there not to give you advice, but they sometimes might be there to just help you feel motivational. They might be there just to help you get you some practical concerns. Financial stress is going to be a significant issue, and financial stress is already the number one reason for mental health issues and for relationship breakdown in Australia. So making sure that we are on top of our budgets, we are giving ourselves a lot of contingency in planning for 5 6 months. My wife is just going out of her job contract at the moment, so we are thinking about what do we have in reserves to take care of our own mental health and well-being. So I'm not immune to any of these,
Yeah.
unlike the rest of us. So it's we need to think about what supports us and let go of our beliefs about what we used to do, because the previous coping mechanisms that we had are not functional anymore. They don't apply in this new reality, and that's where I'm happy to help anyone who wants to reach out and connect with me, to help understand what might be some of the problems they need to solve, even if they need a sounding board, because I feel like that's what I need at the moment, and this is an opportunity for me to speak to your audience through that process.
Brilliant. Thanks for sharing that, Vinay. And I think it's particularly important that seek help. I mean, it's not a bad thing to ask for help. Going to a counselor or therapy, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I think back in our culture, it's not it's not considered as a good thing, right? But it's a very normal thing. Going and asking for help, it's not a bad thing at all. So if you are in trouble, please reach out to people. There are tons of people out there trying to help people. And if you'd like to get in touch with Vinay, just write to us and we'll get it, or look up his Facebook profile. I think he's planning to do a lot of Facebook live and engagement sessions. So please look up his profile. Thanks a lot for being with us, Vinay, today. It was a pleasure having a chat. And like I just said, I was so engrossed in the chat that I absolutely lost track of time. But thanks for being with us today, Vinay.
Thank you, Vinesh. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So, like always, I hope that we gave you a different perspective of how things are going ahead and what we can do as individuals and or as businesses or anyone out there. The more perspectives we get, the more we learn about where we are heading to. If you have any questions or queries for us, please write to us at careeraustralia@m4tv.com.au. Until next time, bye bye.
வணக்கம் M4 டிவி நேயர்களே, நான் உங்க பாலா.
நான் உங்க நம்ரிதா. பாலா, ஒரு எக்ஸைட்டிங்கான நியூஸ் நான் சொல்லட்டுமா?
கண்டிப்பா சொல்லு கேட்போம்.
M4 TV is launching their Tamil show soon.
வாவ், கேட்கறதுக்கே செம எக்ஸைட்டிங்கா இருக்கு. அப்படின்னா நம்மளோட நேயர்கள் எல்லாம் சீக்கிரமா தமிழ் ஷோல சந்திக்க போறோம் சொல்லு.
கண்டிப்பா.
சூப்பர். இத பத்தி மேலும் தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னு நினைச்சீங்கன்னா m4tv.com.au வெப்சைட்டுக்கு போங்க.
அது மட்டும் இல்லாம Facebook பேஜை லைக் பண்ண மறந்துடாதீங்க.